Well, it's official. The seasons of 14 NBA teams are officially over, so while the other 16 teams are gearing up to battle it out in the playoffs, these groups are already getting a head start on their off-season plans. For some of these teams, that could mean big changes after a disappointing year, and some of the best players in the league from these groups are expected to hit the trade block. That is exactly what Bleacher Report focused on in a recent article they published, where they proposed 5 wild trade ideas featuring star players that they think could happen right now. So as always, we'll be going through each of these proposals, analyzing whether or not they're realistic, why or why not the teams involved would want to do it, and who benefits the most from it if it were to happen. Before we start though, it turns out a good amount of you watching right now aren't even subscribed to the channel, so if you enjoy the content, consider hitting the subscribe button and liking the video, as not only does it help out a ton, but it also very much appreciated. Now with that being said, let's begin. The first proposal from the article is between the Utah Jazz and the New Orleans Pelicans, where the Pelicans receive Lauri Markkanen in exchange for CJ McCollum, Jordan Hawkins, and 2 first-round picks. Lauri Markkanen has been a name in trade rumors for about 2 years now, and from the looks of things, the Jazz probably missed their opportunity to sell him at peak value. When he first got to Utah, he exploded onto the scene, finding his footing in a go-to role to such an extent that he both got nominated to the All-Star game for the first time and took home the Most Improved Player award that season, showcasing his full skill set as a versatile 7-footer that can play on the wing, shoot the lights out, and create off the dribble as a lethal 3-level scorer. His contract was also expiring at the time, and the Jazz needed to determine quickly if they viewed him as a part of their future or not, because he's now in the prime of his career, but the team is currently very early on in their rebuild. They ended up handing him a max contract extension worth 5 years and $238 million, but for this season, in year 1 of that deal, Markkanen no longer is playing anywhere close to All-Star level, and he's now dealing with injury concerns on top of it. He went from being a highly efficient 26-point-per-game scorer 2 years ago to now putting up just 19 points per game, shooting 42% from the field and 34% from 3, with a behemoth contract attached to him, so if the Jazz are having regrets about locking him in long term, they would need to accept a more modest trade offer, which is kind of what this proposal from the article is. CJ McCollum would be a terrific locker room presence to have around all of the young Jazz talent. Jordan Hawkins is exactly the type of young talent a rebuilding team would like to take a swing on as a combo guard, and 2 first-round picks are always a solid way to bolster a proposal. For the Pelicans though, I'm not quite sure this is the direction they should be going in. They've been swinging for the fences for a few years now, making big trade after big trade, and nothing seems to be working. If they're going to abandon ship on their current core, then the better option is to just blow it up completely and start a rebuild, because Markkanen does not really solve any of their problems, and if anything, he would only weaken their defense further. There are already too many mouths to feed in New Orleans and a lot of overlapping skill sets, so while the offer would be intriguing for the Jazz, I just don't think the Pelicans should offer it. The next proposal from the article is between the San Antonio Spurs and the Phoenix Suns, where the Spurs receive Kevin Durant in exchange for Devin Vassell, Jeremy Sohan, Malachi Branham, Julian Champagnie, a first-round pick, and a first-round pick swap. It's the end of the line for the Suns as we know them, as they just finished in 11th place in the Western Conference standings, missing both the playoffs and the play-in tournament altogether, and for a team that entered the season with championship expectations, that is simply inexcusable. Kevin Durant already seems halfway out the door, and the Suns will be fielding offers for his services, likely selling him to the highest bidder, so for a Spurs team feeling good about the current state of their core, I could absolutely see them getting in the mix here. Victor Wembanyama is expected to be back healthy for the start of next season, and he has been an absolute godsend for this team, raising the floor dramatically since he's been drafted, providing otherworldly defensive impact, and doing things we've never seen a guy his size do on the offensive end. They also just traded for De'Aaron Fox, finding their point guard to pair him with for moving forward, and now they're going to be looking for a go-to scorer to round out the lineup. And if there's one thing Durant can still do at an elite level, it's score the basketball. This is exactly the type of package that the Suns should be looking for as well, with a bundle of young talent coming in with a few first-round picks attached to sweeten the offer. Devin Vassell defends hard and produces well in a secondary scoring role, scoring anywhere from 17 to 19 points per game. Sohan comes with a jack-of-all-trades type of versatility as a forward, and Champagnie and Branham are decent bench pieces that are still 21 and 23 years of age, fitting what is soon to be the Suns' new timeline. The Suns desperately need to get younger, and they also desperately need to recoup some draft capital after having gone all in on their current core that has brought nothing but disappointment, and the Spurs are looking to start winning as soon as possible, with Victor Wembanyama at the helm. So honestly, I think this is one that makes sense for both sides. The next proposal from the article is between the Portland Trail Blazers and the Phoenix Suns, where the Blazers receive Devin Booker in exchange for Anthony Simons, Matisse Thybulle, Shaedon Sharpe, 2 first-round pick swaps, and 2 first-round picks. Carrying on with the trend from the last proposal, if the Suns accept their fate, then they likely won't stop at just shipping out Kevin Durant. Devin Booker has been a solid servant of this club for a while now, and may not necessarily want to part ways, but it seems like it's going to get to a point where both sides accept that this is going to have to be the way forward for the good of everyone involved. And of course, just like with the last offer, this one from the Trailblazers definitely fits the mold of the kind of return they should be looking for, with a plethora of talented young players that would help kickstart a rebuild, plus some worthwhile draft capital to recoup their prior losses. Shaedon Sharpe is a top percentile athlete who is still just 21 years of age, flashing ridiculous scoring upside. Anthony Simons has been a 20-plus point scorer for 3 years now, and of course, multiple first-round picks and pick swaps is bare minimum for a player of Booker's caliber. If I'm being honest, I believe an extra pick or two may be needed to be included to really take things seriously here, but then, on the flip side of things, I'm struggling to see Booker having any interest in playing on Portland right now. Booker and the Suns would want to part on good terms, meaning that Booker would still want to play somewhere that he can be competitive, and Portland is the opposite of competitive right now. This trade also has them trading away a few of their best players, which would make the supporting cast for Booker there even worse. There are definitely a lot of promising young talents blossoming in Portland, such as Danny Avdija, Toumani Camara, Donovan Clingan, and Scoot Henderson, but they still seem to be a few years away from playoff contention, and Booker's likely running out of patience after the last 2 seasons of disaster. The next proposal from the article is between the Washington Wizards and the Philadelphia 76ers, where the Wizards receive Joel Embiid in exchange for Chris Middleton, Marcus Smart, a first-round pick, and a lottery-protected first-round pick. The premise behind this offer was that they view Joel Embiid as someone that needs to be dumped as soon as possible due to his current health status and his massive contract. And while that may end up being true, this is not the way that the Sixers would go about ending the Joel Embiid era. When Embiid's time in Philadelphia comes to an end, it will mean that the team is about to start retooling for the future, and this return just looks like a desperate attempt to keep going as an 8 seed at best. If Embiid's value has sunk because of the knee issues, then they're better off holding on to him and being patient, hoping a longer recovery period for his knee can see him return to a fraction of his prior MVP form, because giving up on him by bringing in a washed-up Chris Middleton and Marcus Smart solves nothing. The Wizards have nothing to lose here as a basement-dwelling rebuilding squad with all the time in the world to develop their young core, so if Embiid's knee continues to hold himself back, it's no harm, no foul, but if Embiid is able to get back to all-star form, then it's a home run for the Wizards buying low in a trade for them. Then they would also get their young guys some playoff experience sooner rather than later in that scenario. Ultimately, I just don't see the Sixers taking this route, with a more likely trade return needing promising young talent instead of washed-up veterans. And finally, the last proposal from the article was between the New Orleans Pelicans and the Charlotte Hornets, where the Hornets receive Zion Williamson in exchange for Miles Bridges, Tajon Solon, and 2 first-round picks. The Pelicans are another team that could be big sellers this summer, and it does really feel like Zion Williamson and his era in New Orleans is about to come to an end. When they drafted him #1 overall back in 2019, he entered the league with more hype than arguably any other prospect of the last decade, and due to his inability to stay healthy for an extended period of time, that hype has died completely. The reality is that Zion is not going to be the superstar that can be the face of a franchise as initially hoped, and a change of scenery and a fresh reset may be good for both sides. And the Hornets are a team that have been rebuilding for a while and will want to make a move to jumpstart the next phase of that path. In Charlotte, Zion wouldn't be under nearly as much pressure to be the face of the franchise, and his skill set as a physical force scoring in the paint, playing off of LaMelo Ball's elite playmaking talent, would not only be a match made in heaven, but it would be incredibly entertaining, which is a win for basketball fans everywhere. As rare as it seems to be, too, this proposal actually provides pretty fair value for both teams, as Miles Bridges is an established 20-point scorer, Tajon Solon is an incredibly raw young talent with the physical tools worth being patient with and developing in a potential rebuild, and 2 first-round picks is reasonable to cap it all off, giving the Pelicans plenty of value knowing it's hard for them to demand much more given Zion's questionable health. I personally would love to see a trade like this happen as a basketball fan, and if you're a fan of either of these teams, you probably know something like this needs to happen to get them both on a better path long term. And with that being said, that's all I have for you today. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and comment down below what you think about these proposed trades. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next time.